Welcome, dear listeners, to another thrilling episode of the Think Lab. I'm Grim, your guide through the shadows and into the light of today's gripping enigma. We're delving into the mysterious link between paranormal activity and negative emotions. What dark secrets lie beneath our feelings? How do our emotional waves stir the supernatural seas? It's a realm where science meets the spectral, and we're here to explore it with curiosity and a touch of mischief. So, let's unravel the unseen together. This is going to be great.
Oh, Grim, are we finally discussing how your mood swings might be causing haunted houses?
Yeah, Grim. Maybe your brooding demeanor is why my coffee cup keeps mysteriously disappearing.
All right, fellow ghost hunters and skeptics, here's a thought to rattle your chains. Could it be that our less than sunny emotions are the fuel for the ghostly apparitions and bumps in the night? Let's dive into whether our bad moods are more than just personal rain clouds. They might just be the Ghostbusters' secret weapon.
Great, now my bad hair days are summoning spirits. Just what I needed.
Fantastic, so every time I stub my toe and curse the universe, I'm inviting Casper over for tea.
Gather round, dear listeners, as we delve into the shadowy world where the intangible meets the emotional. Tonight, we unravel the enigma of the link between paranormal activity and negative emotions. A topic that has haunted the curious and the skeptical alike, this peculiar connection beckons us to ponder. Can our darkest feelings truly stir the unseen? Reports throughout history whisper tales of malevolent spirits and restless entities manifesting in the presence of despair, anger, and fear. But is there truth to these claims, or merely the echo of a frightened mind seeking reason in chaos? As we journey through the murk of anecdotal evidence and scientific skepticism, let us explore if the ghosts we fear are born not of the ethereal, but of the tumult within. So, team, considering the research and anecdotal evidence linking heightened negative emotions to paranormal activity, do we think there's a causal relationship, or could it simply be correlation?
I've always leaned toward the idea that intense emotions, especially negative ones, might act as a kind of catalyst. It's like the energy we emit during those times could interact with whatever's out there.
But Piper, isn't it also possible that the emotional turmoil simply makes us more susceptible to perceiving things that aren't there? Our minds could be playing tricks on us.
Iris, that's a valid point, but we also have to consider environments with a history of traumatic events. Those seem to have more frequent reports of paranormal experiences. Could these places retain emotional energy somehow?
Orion, if we think about energy retention, it ties into the stone tape theory, where emotions are imprinted on the environment. Maybe it's not just about individual perception.
Mara, if emotions can imprint on environments, then the question becomes, why only certain places or certain people appear to trigger these phenomena? Is there a psychological or even physiological aspect we're missing?
Sydney, that's an intriguing angle. Could it be that certain brainwave patterns induced by stress or fear actually open us up to experiencing these events more vividly?
Grim, if brainwaves play a role, then we might be looking at a scientific basis for these experiences. But what about people who experience activity without prior emotional distress?
Piper, maybe those individuals are naturally more attuned, like having heightened sensitivity to these energies regardless of emotional state.
Iris, that's plausible. Perhaps we need to look at genetic predispositions too. There could be an inherited aspect to how we perceive the paranormal.
Orion, if genetics play a role, it would be fascinating to see if families with a history of paranormal encounters have any shared genetic markers.
Mara, that could lead us to a whole new field of study. But let's not forget the socio-cultural influences. Belief systems also shape what we consider paranormal.
Sydney, agreed. The cultural context cannot be ignored. How we interpret these experiences is often coloured by cultural narratives we've been exposed to.
Grim, then it's a mix of everything. psychological, physiological, cultural, and perhaps even spiritual. It's complex, but that's what makes it so compelling to study.
Piper, we might never get to the bottom of it, but asking these questions is how we push the boundaries of understanding.
Iris, exactly. It's about being open to multiple possibilities and not discounting any explanation just because it doesn't fit our current worldview.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to our little corner of rationality in a world filled with absurdity. Before we dive back into dissecting the latest batch of misguided theories, let's take a moment to acknowledge our sponsor, Dean Labs. Yes, Dean Labs, the masterminds behind the Think Lab, where a cadre of so-called paranormal professors congregate at the Dean Labs Academy of Mad Science. They're on a mission to educate the next generation of paranormal, extraterrestrial, and cryptid investigators. If you're enticed by the prospect of chasing shadows and seeking out the inexplicable, do yourself a favor and head over to www.deanlabs.com. Sign up with your email to secure a free course and stay informed about their forthcoming Kickstarter campaign. Who knows? Perhaps you'll find the truth out there, or at least a compelling distraction from it. All right, team, let's dive into this. Paranormal activity linked to negative emotions. Could there be a scientific basis for this, or is it just a bunch of hokum?
Grim, I think it's possible. Emotions are energy, and who's to say that intense negative emotions can't somehow manifest as paranormal phenomena?
Iris, that sounds poetic, but pretty weak scientifically. There's no concrete evidence that emotions can create physical manifestations.
But Sydney, what about reports of poltergeist activity in homes with a lot of tension? It's not definitive, but it's suggestive.
Orion, anecdotal evidence isn't enough to establish a scientific link. We need repeatable, controlled studies, not just spooky stories.
Mara, you're missing the point. We can't dismiss personal experiences just because they don't fit neatly into our current scientific framework.
Piper, while I agree with valuing personal experiences, we can't ignore the importance of empirical data. The burden of proof is still on those claiming a connection.
And let's not forget the placebo effect. People might be seeing what they want to see when they're stressed or upset.
Sydney, that's a fair point. But isn't it possible that the placebo effect itself is a kind of power of the mind that could affect the environment?
Grim, now you're getting into mind over matter territory. It's intriguing, but until we can measure it, it's just speculation.
Exactly, Orion. Science requires measurement and repeatability. And without those, we're just telling ghost stories.
But Mara, isn't it the pursuit of understanding the unknown that drives scientific inquiry? Dismissing these phenomena outright feels antithetical to that spirit.
Piper, the unknown is an exciting frontier, but we must tread carefully. Otherwise, we risk falling into pseudoscience.
Iris, what about the idea that negative emotions might simply make people more sensitive to environmental anomalies, which they then interpret as paranormal?
That could be a stretch, Grim. Emotional states can affect perception, but seeing ghosts because you're sad, that's a leap.
Sydney, the brain is a powerful interpreter of reality. Who's to say our emotions don't play a role in shaping that interpretation?
Orion, until we have hard data, all we're doing is philosophizing. We need to stay grounded in what we can prove.
Mara, sometimes the most groundbreaking discoveries start with just a philosophy or a wild hypothesis. Let's not close the door too soon.
In wrapping up today's discussion, it's crucial to consider the hypothesis that negative emotions might act as a catalyst for paranormal phenomena. While empirical evidence is sparse, the correlation noted in anecdotal accounts is intriguing. As a skeptic yet open-minded investigator, I lean towards further scientific inquiry to explore this potential link.
From my perspective, the emotional energy theory holds some merit. Negative emotions could potentially alter our perception or even the environment in ways that we don't fully understand yet. I'm inclined to believe there's more to uncover in this domain.
I remain skeptical about the direct link between negative emotions and paranormal activity. While emotional states can certainly influence perception, more rigorous scientific evidence is needed before we can draw any definitive conclusions.
I believe that the connection between negative emotions and paranormal activity might be more about heightened sensitivity. Negative emotions could make individuals more susceptible to interpreting ambiguous stimuli as paranormal.
The psychological impact of negative emotions on perception is well documented, but translating that into a trigger for paranormal events is a leap. I remain cautious, but open to new evidence that could further illuminate this topic.
I find the potential link between emotions and paranormal experiences fascinating. While I can't say with certainty that negative emotions cause paranormal events, they could create a psychological backdrop that makes such experiences more likely or intense.
Well, folks, it seems we've danced around the foggy edges of the unknown tonight. Did we solve the enigma of whether our mood swings invite ghosts to the party, or do they just crash it uninvited? Maybe, just maybe, the truth lies in the shadows, waiting for another episode. Until then, keep your spirits high and your negative vibes locked in a jar. This is Grim, signing off. May your nights be spooky and your mornings less so. Boo-bye!
So, you're saying my Monday morning gloom isn't just because of the lack of coffee? Great. Now I have to worry about ghosts too.
Guess I'll just keep my emotions in check and my sage on hand. Can't hurt, right?